Buongiorno a tutti! Today I have a Blender Compositor quick tip for you. Let's say you've already rendered out your 3D scene, you've got it as an image sequence, and you've split it all up into the passes and view layers, and now you want to bring it into the Compositor, start applying some effects. So I'm going to start with an empty scene and straight away switch to the compositing layout. Now, you will need Node Wrangler enabled to make your life easier. So into your preferences, add-ons, enable Node Wrangler. So now I'll bring in my render, my existing sequence in the Compositor. So Shift A, add an image sequence. Now, if I Control Shift and click my image sequence node here, you can see I've got three different layers. I've got my logo layer, I've got a matte or a mask for it, and I've got this volumetric light. Now, you might think that the compositing layout is the perfect way to view your animated composite. But if I now press play, nothing happens until I press stop. And then it just jumps to the current frame. So I'm going to change this layout a bit. I'm going to make things a bit less cluttered. I'll switch the backdrop off in the Compositor and instead set this lower window to be an image editor. And I can set this image editor to display the viewer node. In other words, the backdrop which I just switched off. Go into this box here, type view, and there it is, viewer node. Now, if I quickly composite these layers together with a few alpha overnodes, that's more or less the composite I was after. I can scrub the timeline, see things move. But again, if I press play, well, I still can't see how it animates. Just like the backdrop in the Compositor, the image editor just ignores the play button, just hops to whatever frame I'm at when I press stop. So how do I animate whatever effects I want to apply in the Compositor? How do I make sure the timing of my effects is correct? Now, if you've ever been going around in circles trying to figure this out, here's how you need to think. What we're actually wanting to do is real-time compositing, meaning we want to interactively edit and animate our effects in the composite before we have to render it out. Now, this catches a lot of people out, but in Blender, real-time compositing is enabled in the 3D viewport, not in the Compositor. So change this image editor window to be a 3D viewport instead, and set the viewport shading to rendered. Then click on that little drop down just next to the viewport shading options there. At the very bottom, under Compositor, set it to always. So it will always show the output of the Compositor, the viewer node. Now you should be able to see the output in the 3D viewport. And if I press play now, it works. And if I scrub through here a bit, I can see that the light is a bit mistimed. I want it to come on just as the last letter clicks into place. And it's a bit early at the moment. Well, no problem. I can use, say, a set alpha node to control the opacity of my light layer and just switch it on a little bit later. So I'll scrub to the point where they click together, switch it on maybe over 5 frames. So I'll move 5 frames forward and set a keyframe on the alpha value in the set alpha node. And now if I go 5 frames back and set the alpha to 0 and set another keyframe, all right, scrub to check that. And I'll shorten the preview range a bit, so we're just playing around that part of the animation. Press play, and now it's really easy for me to retime these keyframes and see the resulting animation straight away. So there you have it. In order to play back in the Compositor, you have to be 1, looking at it in the 3D viewport, which is a bit strange. 2, be in rendered shading mode. And 3, have that Compositor set to always. 3D from Zero makes tutorials and quick tips about 3D software. If you're into 3D or you'd like to be, check out my free course on 3dfromzero.com, and there are some paid courses there too. Thanks for watching.